Entering service in the 2360s following a lengthy development, the Galaxy class was intended to serve as the premier flagship class for Starfleet during the remainder of the century and beyond, with the members of the class boasting unparalleled scientific, diplomatic, and military capabilities to allow them to engage in the full spread of duties expected of flagships, representing the height of the Federation's technical skill and knowledge in the period. In this video, let's take a quick look at this ship, going over some of its more notable features, and also exploring the background of the class in some detail, just to establish a base of knowledge for future episodes to build off of. So, firstly, we should set the stage on what the Galaxy class is. The Galaxy class entered service in the 2360s, and was intended to act as the flagship for Starfleet for the next several decades of the 24th century. To accomplish this, the vessel would be very well equipped to represent the Federation, as well as possible diplomatic missions, scientific voyages of discovery, and the occasional war, which were expected to pop up on occasion. The class reflected the very latest and greatest the Federation had to offer in the realm of science and spaceship design, while also being the largest ship to serve in Starfleet at the time of commissioning. Depending on what source you're looking at, there were 12 ships initially ordered, though the number of vessels which actually entered service varies from the full 12 to a mere 6, with the remaining space frames being placed into storage until a later date in some source material. Regardless of the number which entered service, with some sources saying confidently that only 6 ever entered service, while others quote truly stupid numbers of ships being in Starfleet, citing the Dominion War as an example. Regardless, the Enterprise D, NCC 1701D, was one of the initial members of the class, and she would serve as the Federation flagship during the entirety of her service life. The Galaxy was part of a decade-spanning effort by Starfleet to introduce a new lineage of starships into service after decades of reliance on the Excelsior family to fulfill the missions and roles Starfleet expected and needed them to perform. To this end, the ships represented the culmination of millions of hours of work by a team numbering in the tens of thousands, and was really something to be admired by the citizens of the Federation as an achievement. So that's what the Galaxy class is. Now let's look at some of the more interesting facets of the design, starting with some of my favorite parts of the class and then moving into less well-known elements of the design. So first, I just wanted to go over something briefly which bugged me about the Enterprise during the Next Generation, and that's how the ship apparently only ever uses its smallest shuttle bay. So if you don't know, the Galaxy class has 3 full-fat shuttle bays, one located on the top of the saucer section, which is by far the largest, and then a pair of bays, one smaller than the other, located in the star drive section pointing aft on the neck of the ship between the 2 warp nacelles. And it would be the smaller of these which would see the most consistent use during the run of the show. This despite the fact that the main shuttle bay of the ship is a fairly large and very lavishly appointed area, with multiple levels capable of supporting a large number of shuttles of various types. This comparing to the smaller secondary and tertiary bays, which are little more than a void space in the neck of the ship with a door and force field to maintain atmosphere. I guess you could theorize that they used the smaller bays because those were more niche things, getting planetary dignitaries in and out, or dangerous missions, things like that. But still, there are plenty of occasions where you could have used the main shuttle bay. And of course, obviously, they didn't have the budget to build this massive set, but still it would have been nice to see because it's a prominent part of the design. If you wanted on YouTube, there are quite a few videos which go through what the large main shuttle bay could look like, showing just how large and vast a space it truly is. I'm sure you can just Google or YouTube search, I suppose, Enterprise D main shuttle bay, and you could find it. They're definitely worth a watch. They're very cool, I think, the ones I've seen at least. Next up, I wanted to go over a brief issue I have with sickbay on the Galaxy class, namely how small it is. Like, seriously, the Galaxy class has a crew of over 1,000, yet we're supposed to believe that the tiny sickbay we see in the show is capable of looking after all of them? I really don't think so. Of course, the main reason it's so small is that this sickbay is a redress of a set from an earlier movie, but this does lead me on to a theory that the Galaxy class has multiple sickbays located dispersed throughout the ship, and that the one we see in the show is merely the primary one where the ship's chief medical officer and most important cases are handled. So it's kind of sickbay 1, and then there's a bunch of other numbers of sickbays. Next on our little tour, let's go over probably my favorite location on the Galaxy class, and that's main engineering. I have to say that I just love this set. The whole thing is just so cool. From the massive tube of matter-antimatter reactor taking center stage in the room as this dominant presence, to the air hockey table in the main room and its side office workspace area, to the multi-level design of the place, down to the audible pulsing heartbeat of the engine as it does engine-y things. We don't really see main engineering in the first few episodes of the show. Originally it was not thought of as a set, though, or main engineer. They didn't even have a main engineer, they didn't have the set. The thinking was that they didn't need it when the show was being conceptualized, but eventually they realized that would be kind of nice, and so they managed to get one together. Either way, I'm so glad that we eventually saw what the ship's engineering spaces would look like. And I'm very glad that Geordi LaForge was promoted to act as the ship's chief engineer, because Geordi and Data doing anything is one of my favorite things in any Star Trek. I could go on about other parts of the ship which we see in The Next Generation. Enterprise's bridge, crew quarters, holodecks, 10 forward, transporter rooms. But instead I just wanted to go over some parts of the ship which are either mentioned or else never officially seen but do exist in behind-the-scenes sources, just lesser-known parts of the design. First off is hydroponics. Looking at a top view of the Galaxy-class model, we can see just aft and below the main shuttle bay a series of large windows which hint at a large open space existing here. In official sources, this is stated to be the ship's hydroponics bay, where I believe Coco, wife of the most important person in Starfleet history, Miles O'Brien, worked. I think it was mentioned that she works there, though she also taught at school in Next Gen, I think, and then carried over to teaching school in DS9, I believe. Anyway, hydroponics would have been really cool to see, given its size. Conceptualized as a large green space where crew could connect to nature and help put off homesickness, the bay is depicted in some fan art as having ponds and fully grown trees, as well as plenty of flowers and small woodland creatures. In other words, it's just a super nice place to hang out. If we had seen it, maybe Data could have done his concerts there instead of in 10 Forward. Obviously, the show just didn't have the budget to show this big space. Still, I think it's a super cool idea, and I would have loved to see it shown in a future show or film. I mean, they could have crammed it into Generations, I'm sure. That would have been cool to see, but oh no, instead we had other stuff. We had a whole movie. Now, in the original plans of the Enterprise D, there's a section located in the saucer labeled as Cetacean Ops, cetacean, where various species of aquatic marine mammals could live and serve aboard the ship. We never see this in The Next Generation, though it is mentioned a time or two in several episodes. The porpoises which live in this section aid in the navigation of the vessel, apparently. We do finally see this section in Lower Decks, though of course USS Cerritos is a California-class starship, a more utilitarian stablemate to the Galaxy class. So therefore we can assume that this ship's cetacean ops would be much smaller and toned down compared to that which would be found on something like the Galaxy class. Overall, this section just cracks me up, and I love the idea of the Enterprise having a population of sentient whales serving aboard, which help the ship move around in space, which have their own dedicated section of every Galaxy class. This implies that there are large enough numbers of whale aliens wanting to enlist in Starfleet that this large aquatic habitat makes sense to be installed aboard every ship in the fleet to some extent. This also implies that there exist in the fleet whale alien captains commanding their own starships in the Trek universe, and that makes me happy, and I want to see that desperately in some show in the future. Just Flipper, the captain of, I don't know, USS, Dolphin would be a very on-the-nose name. From whales, dolphins, and porpoises, oh my, we now get to something that joke didn't land, did it? Moving on. We get to something which has always puzzled me about the Galaxy class. And that's the civilian population of the vessel, and the follow-up questions which these people being on the ship bring to mind. Namely, where do they live? How much free reign of the ship do they have? And what exactly do they do? Can any rando on the street get an apartment on the Enterprise D? And what kind of waivers do you have to sign before you go off to live on one of these ships in a lot of danger? It's hinted in several places that the civilian population of the Galaxy class is comprised of family members of crew stationed aboard, so not anybody can get a job, civilian scientists conducting their own research projects from universities and the like, and various small business people which operate aboard the Enterprise, like Guinan in 10 Forward, and the Blue Barber guy, who gives Picard a haircut? Because apparently Jean-Luc Picard needs haircuts. Anyway, I would guess that the civilians which do live on the Enterprise are mostly confined to large civilian spaces. They would have free run of most of the ship, but would be restricted in their access to some areas, such as the main bridge, shuttle bays, engineering, cargo spaces, that kind of thing. I would also think they have fairly large areas like Deep Space Nine's Promenade, but like with a Federation twist, so like cleaner and less seedy. That would also make sense. Like a big shopping mall within the galaxy would be kind of cool, although the Federation doesn't use money, so I'm not sure how that would work. Anyway, as far as quarters go, they probably have cabins similar to what we see other Starfleet personnel having in the show, meaning they're well appointed of somewhat small spaces, which have everything that you need. I want to see more of the civilian side of life aboard a Galaxy class. I think that would be cool. Okay, so those are all of the things which I wanted to talk about as a quick introduction to the Galaxy. Quick in air quotes. How it fits into the Starfleet of the period, as well as some notable areas of the ship or places which I would have wanted to see if the show had a bit more budget during its run for overly large, impractical, and questionably useful sets. What's your favorite part of the Galaxy class? I know this video didn't go terribly in depth into the ship, but it's just an introduction, where I can talk about things that I might not be able to fit into a whole review. Videos to come will go over the ship in significantly greater detail in future, so look forward to that for sure. Because it's coming as part of a series I'm doing this year on the Galaxy class. Also, as always, thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like if you want to, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment talking about your favorite part of the Galaxy class. That would be nice to read. Yeah, what else? For my videos, you may have noticed, make original artwork for just about every video that I make these days. So that artwork can be found on Patreon. So if you follow a link in the description, it'll take you to the Patreon. The artwork for the videos is over there and is freely available to everyone. So you should be able to just go over there and download it if you want to. But you can also join the Patreon, and for a little bit of money each month, I forget what it is exactly, but it's not a lot, you can actually get videos early. Videos usually about a day early. You get to vote on video topics. So this month we're going over, I think, underappreciated designs, the Miranda class as the Patreon video vote. So that's going to be next week. So you could vote on video topics moving forward if that's something that interests you. You also get behind the scenes looks. I'm working out, I made a couple of weeks ago a video on how big the Oberth class is, and I'm going to eventually, when I have something to do it on, make an Oberth class in Minecraft, and I'm going to probably show that building process over on Patreon. So you can support there and watch that come together, but I'll also make a finished video going over the whole thing and what I found. So yeah, that's about all I've got right now. Because it is summer, it is very, very hot in the recording studio for Starship Reviews, which is an attic. So yeah, it's very warm, so I'm going to cut the video off there, but I could waffle on forever. A brownie point if you've made it this far, of course. And again, we'll have to come up with something to use those brownie points on, I guess, at some point. But keep saving them, maybe, if they're ever relevant. Who knows? Yeah. Bye.